Chapter 11. Tranquil Breath to Control Stresses. In present modern life, a person revolves around the stresses only. There is stress in every walk of life. From birth to death, one moves in and out of the stress only. Nobody in this world is above the stress. Stress has become the part and parcel of modern life. Even each one of us breathes in stress irrespective of the age. Stresses due to job, spouses, family, health, children, education, and their welfare, environment, social pattern, money matters, differences in thinking, surrounded by evil thinkers, deceivers, involvement in interactions, and various other unforeseen causes create mental stress. This affects health and peaceful living, even if one tries to be desireless and tries to live in minimum worldly comforts without undue hurting others and revolves to live with the self. Number of stresses of day-to-day living in the materialistic world in a horizontal worldly plane can be tackled on being selfless, desireless, without undue mingling with others. Still, many stresses that are getting generated by vulnerable social elements which are beyond the control of the self and just cannot be avoided. A sincere, honest, and divine person gets affected very severely, and at times conditions become so miserable that he does not know what to do by his knowledge of self-control and positive living. It is rather difficult to imagine a situation for an ordinary person who has not passed through such a trauma in his life. Furthermore, for a hypersensitive person, that is sadhaka or spiritual aspirant living as householder, such a situation becomes much more difficult and severe. Before going for more details of the stress phenomena, literally and word meaning of the stress has been defined. In the word stress, S stands for sensitivity, T stands for transient, R stands for response, E stands for evolvement, and S stands for stigma, and last letter S stands for syndrome. It means stress is nothing but a sensitivity of a person towards transient response, evolving stigma for unavoidable syndrome. In short, it affects a sensitive person, that is, a spiritual aspirant, more than an insensitive person. A common human being under stressed conditions is affected with high blood pressure, high blood sugar level, heart palpitation, mind irritation, sleeplessness, and various other physical problems. At certain age, the situation becomes very pathetic. Medicines may help temporarily, but the human system cannot be cured unless the causes of the stress are withdrawn. To overcome and remove the cause of the stress is beyond one's own control, and added to this, sufferings due to physical disorders get aggravated. Gradually, situation becomes from bad to worse. Although one tries his level best to tackle the cause of the stress problem by one's full efforts and capacity, but to resolve the concerning stress level issues that are deeply rooted are difficult to handle. These issues need immense patience, involvement, compassion, and peace of mind, besides in-depth subject knowledge, assistance, positive advices, and above all, the God's grace. Even if one of these basic requisites gets distorted during the process of tackling the stress concerning issues, the physical ailments get manifested and become vividly visible. Stress reduces the lifespan and contributes immensely to our unhappiness. Now the issue arises, what is to be done? One needs to deeply ponder on this. Basically, it is essential that one must have a philosophical outlook of human life on the problem and on any of such related issues. It is to be clearly understood that even by being good, honest, and totally positive in outlook, the various problems and issues can come up in horizontal worldly plane in day-to-day life. This clearly shows that to be even perfectly good in dealings Words, deeds, and thoughts are not the only requisite to lead a trouble-free life in this world. Finally, it revolves around the prarabdha of an individual in this life after doing his level best to achieve his goal to tackle stress concerning problems and success in the life. At time, nothing could be done, and one has to suffer without his involvement in undue activity. Under such conditions, one need not blame himself nor his associates and friends. One must be clear that this is the outcome of his past accumulated karmas, and he has to undergo the misery as the reactions. It must be clear that life is a continuation. It is continuum with discontinuities. Even after death, one has to undergo the sufferings in his new birth as the net effect of his bad activities of the previous birth. Any problem in life comes to evolve him. Finally, it gets resolved after giving some misery. In general, any discontinuity in life evolves a person and makes him stronger. It gives a therapy effect. So, the only solution is to pray the being for his blessings to get stronger to face the miseries and the crises. Prayers under such adverse conditions give courage to the mind and tonic to the body. Prayer means to accept the miseries and to express gratitude to Almighty, saying that even worst could have happened. He had saved him. One must have such positive attitude in life. During prayer, from the depth of heart and mind is concentrated. It is one-pointed. There is no flickering and roaming of mind. This makes the mind annihilated. Then only pure consciousness governs the system, and as this period is prolonged in the mergence with the prayer, consciousness is manifested. Gradually, this consciousness transforms into consciousless state with discontinuity. This brings the timeless stage, and then one enters in Akal, the timeless zone, and merges in being with discontinuities. He is transformed into being, and he is then beyond time and space spontaneously. And thus he gets immense divine power and energy to face the stresses, and stresses disappear by its own. It is very important to avoid all types of mental and bodily stresses because of other associated problems, while under the effect of miseries. Physical signatures of the body must be very intensely monitored by close attention of the mind towards the body. It must be very clearly known that under the effect of the stresses, the basic systems which get affected are the digestive system, breathing pattern, and heart pulse rate. Under the effect of stresses, digestive system becomes more acidic, more acids get secreted, and hence diet must be strictly controlled. All types of acidic food must be avoided. Food consumed to be such that it does not give acidic effect to keep the digestive system healthy. Under such conditions, breathing pattern should be kept tranquil as far as possible. It should be kept calm without any irritation to keep the mind under control. Breath rate must be kept lower as much as possible to retain the calmness of the mind. One must be aware of breath as frequently as possible and try to be with discontinuity of breath to be in peace and draw more divine energy from the cosmos. Mental stresses and bodily stresses always try to disturb the breathing pattern. So, one must always be very vigilant of one's own breathing pattern and try to make it tranquil as frequently as possible to retain the control of mind. Tranquility of the breath is nothing but the flow of air more or less equally from both the nostrils. Furthermore, it must be remembered that the mind gets energy from the breath, as do the other problems of the body. So, it is natural that only adequate energy to be given to mind, and also the energy given to mind must be pure, sattvic and without any irritation. Excess energy towards the brain is to be avoided. It is only possible when the breathing pattern is completely tranquil and breath rate is low. To achieve the above state, some people avoid food. Fasting is observed to reduce the energy in the system. On the contrary, some people eat more to have excessive sleep. One must be vigilant to one's own system and act accordingly. It must be noted that with less breath rate, which is overall good for mental peace, but with this excess of toxins gets accumulated in the system, and this leads to increase the stress levels in the system. So, to tackle this problem, due attention must be paid that the time taken for breathe out should be more than the time taken for breathe in. In other words, gradually it is better to make air vacuumed in the system by exhausting, removing more of air from the system, and taking less of intake breath to run the vital system of the body. Vacuumed state of the system is the state of nothingness. Divine health giving energy is drawn by the system in this spontaneous void created by depleting the accumulated breath in the system. If this is observed all the 24 hours a day during crisis, then the stress levels in the system will not increase beyond the threshold level, and mind will tend to be self-imposed. This will tend to control blood pressure, heart palpitation, acidity of the system, and sugar level in the body, and so on. Furthermore, increase of air vacuumed or shunyaka in the system improves the digestive system. Besides this, Udana Prana must be increased or maintained in the system. This will add further to avoid any excitement of the system and enhance the spiritual energy of the system. Also, during stressful stage, if Udana Prana is passed through Sushmana Nadi more frequently, this will enhance the calmness of mind and give rest to the system. Although, under stressful conditions, to increase Udana Prana and its passage through spinal cord becomes more and more difficult, but this is the only way to self-control and maintain tranquility of mind. On the other hand, indulgence in intoxication and use of tranquilizers to suppress the stress levels will tend to affect the mind adversely to take the right decision, and also tends to make the mind sleepy more frequently. The best and easier way to increase the Udana Prana is to listen very deeply the mantra being chanted mentally or vocally in each breath by the navel movement. In conclusions, it is emphasized that to control the stress levels in the period of self-crisis in life, the best way is to pray apart from the best self-efforts to come out from the crisis of the horizontal worldly plane. The key process is to maintain vacuum in the system. To maintain breath in suspended state as frequently as possible, to be with the self, besides using all possible ways and means to resolve the issues by efforts. All issues of the horizontal worldly plane are time dependent, and no issue is permanent. However, our attachment to the issues increase the stress levels, which is natural since all of us are in human form and ought to get affected by the blow of Maya or illusion. There is no escape for any of us. Maya has to be worshipped to gain its sympathy and to get out of its blows and influences. Maya itself is Brahma, which is created by him. Maya itself can dilute its effect not by our fighting with Maya, but only by surrendering to the Almighty force. In a nutshell, one's sincere prayers from the depth of his heart, in the perfect silence mode, in the state of emergence in being, to be beyond time and space, to manifest the consciousness, can only assist him and save him from all issues of stress and miseries of his human life. Thus, one can manifest divine energy to have protection in all respects. There is no other perfect, safe, reliable, and absolute solution. However, tranquil breathing is the best remedy to dilute the adverse effects of stresses on physical body and mind.